Hello and welcome to this super ultra professional haircutting and styling tutorial. There aren't a lot of videos out there about getting a haircut specifically for vintage styles, especially shorter ones, so I thought I'd just go for it and cut my own. After a couple months of experimenting, I felt like I was ready to share my techniques with you, so here we go. This haircut is inspired by some of Marilyn Monroe's shorter styles and the very popular Italian cut of 1953. It was a huge craze for a hot second, and I can see why. It's very flattering and has a really nice balance between casual and glam. And it's actually not as much work to style as you might think. I'm pretty lazy and I manage to style my hair most days of the week. With some practice, it only takes 10 minutes or less to roll and 10 to style. Much easier than long vintage hair. So, if this style is something that appeals to you, keep watching for a detailed guide on cutting and then later styling. Here's a diagram I made myself to show you the measurements I cut to. Keep in mind, I am not a professional and you'll have to cut at your own risk. The good news is that it's hair and it will grow back if you don't like it. So without further ado, let's get to the tutorial. Oh, sorry, didn't see you there. I was just skateboarding. Every time I don't curl my hair, I have to laugh at myself because I feel like I look like 80s, 90s teen heartthrob boys. I'm gonna go finish my makeup so I don't feel quite so much like that. I'll be right back. Well, that's better. First things first, your supplies. You're gonna need a small ruler. You're gonna need a comb, preferably a fine tooth comb. Hair scissors. Don't use your fabric scissors. Bad. If you have a scissors sharpener, you might want to sharpen your scissors. You're gonna need something to put your hair in. This is a takeout container lid. Alright, and the last thing you're gonna need is a spray bottle. I'm actually using water and setting lotion together because I'm gonna set my hair right after this into rollers. Okay, and then one last thing, you can either use a hair elastic or a clip, alligator clip like this, but you're going to want to section off the bang area. So what I like to do is come right here, right at the corners of my forehead, about 4 inches back, and I try to keep it somewhat of a square shape. And you want it to be pretty square in the back here too. Basically this front section is going to be longer than everything else so that you can get a nice swoop. So I'm just going to use some clips to clip it out of the way. I feel like I need some more light in here. That helped a little. Okay, so what we're going to do is you're going to decide how short you want your hair to be. And when I first cut my hair, I was a little afraid to commit to a shortcut, so I did 6 inches all the way around. And it was just a little bit too long to really get the look I wanted. So the second time I did it, I cut 4 inches on the sides and then 5 inches on top. And that was a little bit hard to roll. So what I'm gonna do this time is do 4.5 inches on the sides and 5.5 on the top. So right now my hair is 5 inches. Not a graceful way to do this, but this is what I do and it works. Just take little sections, about 1 inch by 1 inch. So basically you want to have like a pyramid of hair coming out, right? So then you're gonna take your ruler, you're gonna stick it straight on your head like that. Like it's coming straight out of your scalp, like it's growing out of your scalp. And then you're gonna wanna mark with your fingers. Again, there's no graceful way to do this. You're gonna wanna mark with your fingers where you wanna cut. So like right here, I know I wanna cut. Keeping taut and not moving anything else. You're just gonna cut like so. Okay, and then now you've got some hair and you're gonna put it in your hair catcher. And you don't need to really keep it like separated because you're gonna just be measuring and cutting as you go, and you'll kind of be able to see what's already been cut and what hasn't just based on like pulling it out like this. I mean, once you do a whole row, you'll probably want to keep that out of your way just to make it a little easier for yourself to do the rest. But it's helpful to kind of do some, go back, check, just keep measuring, and it's you know, it's a process. I can see here I already cut that little tiny bit there. Like that. So I'm pinching the hair and snipping, and voila. And you kind of check, like, if you take kind of a longer section like this, so you can see this part hasn't been cut yet. You can see this part's been cut and this part hasn't. Ooh, thunder. So you can kind of just, oh. Hello. Florida in the summer, y'all. As I was saying, you're just gonna kind of keep measuring. But the key here is to just take small enough sections, so like I said before, you're not distorting the pyramid too much. Pyramid of hair. And you know what? It's not going to be perfect, and it's not probably going to be as good of a job as a professional, but desperate times call for desperate measures.
And now I invite you to enjoy a time lapse. As you can see, I just repeat this technique all around my whole head, using the pieces I already cut as a guide, taking my time.
I would encourage you to kind of, you know, experiment within reason, because what looks good on me might not look great on you, and vice versa. So I'm just constantly going back and like checking against whatever it is cut. Anything that's poking out, I just snip in at an angle. Just kind of pull until the hair starts falling, and then you know that that's proper length to cut that part too. So if you have curly or wavy hair, you're gonna want to use this. I know I said to get this and I haven't been using it, but my hair is pretty straight. Obviously you can cut your hair dry or wet. You probably don't want it to be like sopping wet, but it can help make it a little more manageable. But just remember, if it's wet, it might kind of shrink up a bit once it's drier, so that might make it seem shorter. Just another thing to consider.
Every so often I went back to the ruler just to check and make sure that my measurements were remaining consistent.
Alright, so now I just have to cut the top. So I'm going to let this stuff down. Part's really the same as the other, just doing it to 5.5 inches. Take my ruler.
You'll see later when I roll that there's a few little pieces that I missed, and that's happened now every time I've done this. Just take your scissors and snip off the excess.
I think it's kind of cute as is. It's just cute like shag. I don't hate it like this, but it does look a lot better curled. So I'm going to show you how to style this now. Now is when you're going to use your setting lotion and water, and you're going to want to make sure that you dilute the setting lotion according to the bottle. If your hair is really healthy, you don't have enough water, it's going to make it kind of waxy feeling, so you want to make sure that you have enough water. What I like to do is start off by sectioning off my part, and I like to do a nice deep part right about here, the same spot where I parted to cut the longer section. And I usually start with this section. I don't know why, I just do. You are going to take about the width of this an about 1 inch section down. And you can just use your finger. You can also use a comb if you want, like that, and spray 1, 2, because you want it to be pretty wet, but not soaking. So then what you do is you just pull the hair taut, put your roller there, use your fingers to kind of hold it in place as you roll. And freshly cut hair is kind of hard to work with sometimes. So you might have to try a couple times before it sits right. But the key is to keep the curl, I've seen it described as flat like a ribbon on the inside. You're not wanting to twist it as you roll. You gotta keep it flat and straight. I'm gonna take my next section. And then there's tons of different rolling patterns you can do. This is the one I do pretty much all the time. So you put the roller right about midway on the hair, not at the very end, because then that gives you something to roll onto. And then you kind of just use your fingers to tuck the ends of the curl in, and it kind of secures itself with the rest of the hair. Now from here, I usually do the front bang section. So I like to take about the same size section, and I pretty much always do this on dry hair, or 99% dry. Because if I do a wet set, truly wet, it doesn't dry. So for the bangs, I've been doing actually the larger size roller. Do the same thing where I put that and then tuck with my fingers down, like so. So I do 3 of these bigger rollers up top. This is very individual. You might find you need to use smaller rollers, bigger rollers, more rollers, fewer rollers. I will say though, for me, more rollers is more comfortable to sleep in because it kind of acts as like a helmet against your head, whereas if you don't have enough rollers and there's gaps, your head kind of falls onto the pillow and then the rollers kind of get spread apart and it can kind of hurt. More rollers better. One more here. Spray, spray, spray. Comb through. And when you comb through, you are just making sure that you're coating the whole curl. This definitely does require some muscle memory, so if you're having a really hard time at first, don't beat yourself up. It's really tough, but you just practice, and then before you know it, you'll be rolling like a pro. Ooh, and I just found a long piece of hair. So I'm just gonna trim that. And then, so that's 3 pinks, and I'm back to green. I'm rolling this down. Spray, spray, spray. Pinch. And I want to have the hair straight out taut, just like when you cut it. And you roll. And secure. So I'm going to do the rest of it until I get to about here. And then I do smaller rollers. So basically you kind of use these rollers as a guide for the back rollers. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So you've got 1 tier up here, 1 tier here, and then the rest are 2 or 3 smaller tiers. I'm going to show you, see this end right here is sticking out. We don't want that. So I'm going to spray that one more time. Tuck the ends tight. And then use the rest of the hair to kind of lock it in place like that. The longer you can leave your rollers in, the better, the more secure your set's going to be.
Usually I have one more green row there, but for whatever reason, I only did 2.
That's all the green ones and the pink ones. So now down here, I do smaller rollers on the bottom of my head because down here the hair is the least accommodating to curl. So I use the smaller rollers, kind of compensate for that, and it does work. If you're finding that your hair just really hates to hold a curl, maybe try smaller rollers. So how I do the bottom part is I usually think of it in like a section of 3. So I've got my left section, my middle section, my right section, and I usually do three rollers on each of those sections, so 9 small yellow rollers. And I do the same thing as the rest of it. Trim a little what I miss. When you get to the point where you don't really even need to look, you can just do it by feel. But if it helps to have a mirror at first, then do that. But once it kind of gets used to being cut, it's gonna just roll, I think 8 minutes is my record. Alright, ta-da! Stay tuned for the brush out. Alright, it's the next day. Here I am with my freshly slicked in hair. Still intact mostly. For the styling, you are going to need hair covered brushes. One with bristles like this. I used a Denman brush. It's really good for brush outs. I will link these down below. I also use this Suavecita teasing brush. And my favorite hairspray of all time is the Suavecita hairspray. It doesn't get flaky and crusty. It's fantastic. And if my hair is feeling really frizzy, I use a little Suavecita pomade. So first things first, take out the rollers. And the nice thing about having short hair is you can kind of just pull them out. But be careful, be gentle. And this is what I like to call the Shirley Temple stage of things. Here we go, looking great. So now, what I like to do is just kind of run my fingers through my hair a little bit. Just kind of break up the curls. So then I take my Denman brush, and leaving this part kind of intact here, I just start lightly brushing. And this style isn't meant to be like extremely sleek and neat. You can have a little bit of wildness still, because if you get it too sleek, it looks like a helmet. So I found having some curls kind of like Marilyn. Her style was not perfectly coiffed. It was a little windswept looking. Brush roughly, and then you'll see a little bit of stuff starting to form here. Stuff being like a wave or curl kind of situation. For me, I need something here to kind of break up this line of my face. If it's too much like this, it looks like, I don't know, it's just not that flattering. So I need something here to kind of break up this outline of my face. Alright, and we're not perfecting it yet, we're just kind of starting to get it to take shape. So I am going to use a little pomade. So you just take, especially for hair this short, just a little, like a pea-sized amount. You don't want to take too much because it'll get greasy. You just put it in your hands like this, all the way through, and then you just kind of start to work it. And try not to get it too close to your scalp, because also that will make it look greasy. And just kind of lightly. This kind of helps the curls form better and hold better. So now what I'm going to do is tease this front section up here, the bang section. So I'm going to take about the same size, maybe a little thinner, as the rollers, so like that much. I take my hairspray and just lightly spray, and I'm not going to tease this side. I'm only going to tease this side here, because we want this part to be as smooth as possible when it's a nice swoop. I'll leave that. Come and take the next section, do the same thing. So spray, this time I'm going to do both sides. Spray, spray. And just tease, you know, nothing crazy, just to give it some texture and some volume, but you're not trying to make it like extremely teased. The nice thing too about short hair is that it holds volume a lot better because it doesn't have so much weight to drag it down. And then I do usually do right here too, just to kind of give it like a base. Looking like a cheap wig. All right, great, perfect. Cheap wig stage accomplished. So now we go back to this brush and just start kind of lightly brushing through that pomade. When we get to the back here, I like to turn my brush under and brush like that. It kind of tucks the ends a little underneath. And then when that seems good, at this point you might want to check the back with the mirror. This style is a lot less structured than others. It's kind of tousled in the back too. Once we have this kind of situation going, then we're going to just lightly start brushing, very lightly, brushing through that tease section, and then use your thumb and your fingers up here. Brush around your thumb. Just kind of let it do what it wants, but guide it like a teenager. I would consider this to be a long Italian cut. It's not as short as they probably would have gone, but I need some volume, so I can't go too short, and I need to be able to roll my hair. And again, you don't want it to be like a chunk here. You want to kind of break it up into individual curls a little. And you gotta kind of make sure, you gotta kind of like squint and make sure that both sides are even so that you don't have a big poof over on this side and this side's flat. I don't have a great area to do this kind of video in, I'm sorry, but hopefully this is okay. That's kind of what it looks like from the front. I want this to be a little bit further down my forehead. Once I'm happy with that, then I take my hairspray again. And I spray the ever-loving out of it. So, as you can see, I went from 90s, 80s teen heartthrob to 50s bombshell. This hairstyle actually is really, really low maintenance. The only thing that's annoying about it is that you have to trim it. It only takes, 10 minutes at most to roll it. I just re-roll it at night, just how I did earlier, but the first time you roll it, it's the most annoying, but once the curls are already locked in, you can just roll super easily, and it only takes, less than 10 minutes, less than 15 minutes to style. It's super, super quick. Highly recommend. I hope you like it. If you're a hairstylist, I hope I didn't offend you greatly, but I probably did. Sorry. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you try it, if you're a brave soul and you try to cut your own hair like this, let me know. I'm curious. So yeah, until next time. Here we go. So